Good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining us at this event, Spotlight on Clean Careers, which we are running with Founders for Schools and STEM ambassadors to give you, the young people, an insight into some of the amazing career opportunities available to you in clean careers. For the audience at home, please know, and in school, please know that the session is being recorded. So keep your cameras and your microphones off, and do use the chat function to ask our experts all of your questions about their careers and about the job that you could have in clean careers and saving them. So my name's Louise, I'm from Founders for Schools, and I'm joined today by Sophie and Itxaso. These are our two brilliant speakers who are going to share their career journey with you in clean careers, how maths can save the world. And without any further delay, let's go over to Sophie. Sophie, welcome. Thank you for joining us.
Hello, thank you very much for having me. I'm really excited to be here today.
Thank you. So let's start off. Can you tell us, please, Sophie, what your job is and what that means?
Okay, so my job title is mathematician. That's what I am. I do maths, and that doesn't mean that I look at a blackboard and I do sums all day. What I actually do is work on all sorts of different problems, and what I fundamentally do is I solve puzzles. That's what I do each and every day, and I do it with numbers.
Excellent. And what kind of puzzles?
So I do all sorts of different puzzles, and I know the focus today is on clean careers. So the types of puzzles I work on are, there's one that we are doing looking at illegal fishing, and actually we're working on puzzles to try and stop illegal fishing by understanding where fish come from. And that might not sound like something you're really interested in, but if we understand where fish come from and we can help prevent illegal fishing, we protect fish stocks, we protect the seas, we protect the planets, and actually we also help to stop human trafficking and modern day slavery. So that's one of the puzzles we're working on. And another one of the puzzles we're working on is how we can understand the state of somebody's house. So there are lots of grants to help make your house warm and watertight and energy efficient. But to understand who needs those grants, we need to understand which houses those should go to. And we help local councils do that. So we can work out if your house might need extra heating or new windows.
Wow, thanks for that. Where do you get your data from?
So for the fishing, it comes from all sorts of different sources, and for the fishing, we look at chemicals. We understand chemicals in the water, and we understand how the river flows into the sea and how the chemicals coming off the land usage. So is it agricultural, is it industrial land? And we model the chemical movements of the from the rivers into the sea and how those enter the fish. And we do something called a transfer function, which is how the chemical uptake into the fish as they grow changes the chemicals that you see in the fish. So that's one of the projects we do. And then we also look at where fish are landed. And then for the houses, well, there's all sorts of housing data out there when you go looking. And so that's understanding about housing stock. That's so people have something called an EPC rating, which is how energy efficient their house is. And that can help us a great deal. So we get data from all over.
All over, yes. So it really is detective work.
It really is detective work. And then I get to do some coding. I code in Python, and we create algorithms and we see what results come out and we try and understand what those results mean. It really is well, I say that I get paid for playing hide and seek. That's basically what I do for a living. We just go and find patterns and puzzles.
Patterns and puzzles, fantastic. And you did mention something there earlier that people at home will be familiar with, that you model yep. What happens. Can you tell me a bit more about that, please?
Yeah, sure. So some of the problems and puzzles we work on are really quite complex. And what we need to do is come up with a simplified way of looking at those. So what we try and do is come up with a mathematical model, and it's never perfect, but it's some sort of representation of the system that we're looking at. And we do that with equations, and we type them up and we put them into code, and they're called models. And then we put in the data we've got and we see what comes out the other end. And we try and understand if that result, if what's coming out at the end is actually truly representative of what we see, and then how we might be able to improve that. So that's what we do.
Oh, right. OK. And then who do you take your findings to?
Well, we take that to all sorts of different people. So for the fishing, that's a really in-house research project that's been going for 3 or 4 years, and we are working with universities on this, and we also work with industry. So at the moment, it's an in-house research project that we don't really go to that many people with, but it's fascinating and it's helping understand how fish can be protected. For the housing, well, there's all sorts of people interested in that, but at the moment it tends to be local county councils, county councils, so they can understand who they can help. And the other big puzzle we've been solving is we've been working with food banks a lot to help them understand how many people might need the help of a food bank within a region. And we target food banks and charities who are helping people, particularly through the pandemic, so they know who to go and work with.
Wow, yes. So you need to know how many people, where they are, and
what help they might need. And I'm not saying that we know, your name or where you live, but in a town, how many more people might be needing that extra little bit of help?
Oh, you sound very busy.
We have been very busy. It's been a really busy year, but it's been a really fun year. It's good to be able to help people and make sure that everybody can be their best.
That's fascinating. Thank you. We'll come back to you with more questions quite soon. And our second guest, Itxaso, thank you for joining us. Thank you. Could you tell us, please, a little bit about yourself, where you work and what your job is?
Yeah, sure. So my name is Itxaso, which I know is very complicated. Thank you, Luis, for inviting me to participate on this panel. It's really great to be with all of you today. So probably you already noticed, and from my name and my accent, that I am not British. I am from Spain. I live in London, but I am from Spain. I've been here for 12 years now, living in London, which I absolutely love. But I've been all over the place around the world. So I lived in Barcelona, in Berlin, more recently in San Francisco, and then moved to London 12 years ago. And so I am a venture capitalist, and you will wonder, what is a venture capitalist, right? What do you do as a venture capitalist? So what I do is I invest in technology. And technology, in my case, is software. So if you think of all the applications that you use, from Facebook to TikTok to Google, anything that you use in your day-to-day basis, to open table, to book a table when you go to a restaurant, all those applications are built by different companies. I look at all these companies and I look at how can I invest in one of those companies when they are very small, when they are 10 people building the technology, and I believe they will be able to grow that company as a massive global business, and I will be able to make money out of it, right? And so my day-to-day basis, what that means is that I play with all these products and evaluate the investment opportunity. I play with the different applications, the different web solutions. I look at a lot of the code that we just were talking about and think, okay, would this be something that everyone would like to use in the future? Some of you, for example, might have heard of the company Kahoot or the product Kahoot, which is this company which builds games for education, where teachers can build games for students. I was an investor and I sat on that board on that company maybe 3-4 years ago. And now I sold my ownership. I bought some ownership when the company was just 3 people. And at the moment, that is a public company which has over 300 people. And so I have sold my shares, my ownership in the company, and I made money out of that, right? So that's a little bit what I do as a venture capitalist. It is a super fun job because obviously I work with founders, I work with entrepreneurs, and these are people who are very ambitious. They want to change the world. They want to have all of you using their products, and they build super fun applications too that I get to see very early on. So that is great. You might ask yourself, what did you study to get there? So what did you do at school? So by background, I'm an engineer. I did engineering. In fact, it was chemical engineering at the university, which I absolutely love. Engineering is a very diverse science. So you can do a little bit of maths, but you can do physics, mechanics, chemistry, computer science and computer applications. All of that is part of the engineering. So it's very diverse, and it's a way to solve problems, puzzles, like we were talking about just a little bit ago. And I worked a little bit for Daimler, the car manufacturer, as an engineer, which wasn't really for me, but it was a great adventure, I went back to university and I studied a PhD in entrepreneurship and venture capital, which is how I got into the new startup development, right? And in my career, in my professional career, I use maths every single day. So I see companies and I look at, okay, how big is this market? So I need to calculate how many people will be using this application, this solution every day. Would they be paying for it? How much? So there are some very simple maths, but things that you need to think through to evaluate how big can that be globally, right? I use maths in my day-to-day basis at home, because even if I have a family and my husband, I am the one who manages all the finances at home, looks at, hey, how can we get a mortgage here? How can we do an investment there? How can we pay the kids' school in a better way? And so that gives me an incredible independence as an individual and as a person. So it has helped me a lot in my day-to-day basis. And in terms of the impact that maths is having in the clean technology, in the clean space, as an investor, I can invest in companies. And I give you an example of a company that I evaluated. For example, you can use a technology that looks at trash, literally trash, and is able to identify the recycling, the trash that is potentially be recyclable. And so if you are throwing trash through a hole, for example, or through a pipe, if you have that technology, which is an image recognition, it's called computer vision, it can identify that trash and it can divide the trash for being recycling and being not recycling. And for that, you use a technology. I might invest in the company because it has a huge potential. So imagine all the trash that we generate today, right? We buy some strawberries and they are inside a package. We buy some bread and it's inside a little package, and we have some waste from those strawberries that we throw away. So something is organic, something is plastic. How do we divide all of those when people are not maybe consciously doing it, right? So that is a great application for what I do in terms of investments and technology and how that applies to the clean space.
Fantastic. Thank you for that. What an exciting career. So you invest in risk, I guess. You weigh up the risk, and if something seems like it's going to be really good, you help to get it off the ground.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, there is a lot of risk involved. So when I made a couple of guys who are coming out from Oxford University, and they are building a technology, and they are 3 guys, and they are telling me, hey, we are going to be able to implement, just the example I gave, this trash classifying solution everywhere, not only in London, not only in the UK, but all over the world. We are moving afterwards to Germany, to Spain, we are moving to the US, and we want to build a 200, 600 people business. And so I need to believe that is true. So I need to evaluate that. And that is where a lot of the maths comes in, because I need to think, okay, how much trash do we generate? How many people do we have per country? How much do companies and governments pay to classify that trash? Would a company like Pepsi pay to get some material that they can recycle and maybe use at a lower cost than new material, right? And so all of those things need to be kind of calculated, and that requires a risk, because I base all of these on assumptions. On my assumptions on how much will governments and Pepsi will be willing to pay on that, right?
Yes. So putting all the pieces of the jigsaw together.
Correct.
Up with your decision. Fantastic. Yeah. Thank you. And what you mentioned a little bit about your journey there. What made you? I'm going to ask this question to both of you. What made you want to get into your brilliant career?
So I think when I studied engineering, I liked, in general, I like maths, but I also liked chemistry. I was a little bit on the science part in general, you know. And I thought engineering is a very, as I said, is a very diverse study and science, and I think it gives you a way to solve problems in general, and it can go in many different directions, and I think it opens a lot of doors, right? It is not like other studies where you study for a chef and you gotta be a chef. This is very, very diverse, right? And so I think it opens many doors, and I wanted to have many opportunities when I was coming out of university. You can go to banking, you can go to consulting, you can go to engineering to build solar plants, you can go to investments like me, you can go to many different places. So that's a little bit where it took me, why I chose engineering in that sense. And I did a PhD later on because I love teaching. I really love teaching it, and I wanted to be able to interact with people. And if you do have a PhD, you can teach at the university, you can do a lot of research, you can work for the university. So I didn't end up working for a university, but I do still teach. I teach at the University College London on Friday, so one day a week. I teach at the university because that is what I like to do. And I think it's important that you follow your passion and you follow what you like to do at the end of the day. I don't know if Sophie has anything to add to it.
Yeah, so I'm like you. I sort of took the road less traveled. I trained as an engineer, so I grew up only wanting to play with aeroplanes. I mean, I was just aeroplanes my whole life, and I don't know about you, but I still watched Top Gun when I was a lot younger, and I was like, wow, you can get a job with aeroplanes. And so I studied aeronautical engineering, and my mum and dad didn't really know what to do. I grew up in a town in the north of England called Barnsley. Kids back then didn't really go to university. I went off and I loved my engineering degree, aeronautical engineering, just aeroplanes, dawn to dusk. I thought I was going to be an aeronautical engineer. Then I did a Masters of Applied Maths and Fluid Mechanics because I was going to design aeroplanes and turbine blades, and this was going to be my life. And at the age of 24, I got my first job as an aircraft trials engineer, and I was on aircraft trials, and I realised I was standing in America talking to all these guys who were going to go off and do the trial, and it was my childhood dream. I was the kid who grew up going, this is what I'm going to do, and I was standing there and I loved it. It was everything I ever wanted. And on the aircraft trials, I got interested in why we miss information. And there was this thing called Bayesian networks, which back then nobody knew about, nobody cared about. And I did a part-time PhD, 8 years while I was working in Bayesian networks. And Bayes' theorem is what drives the Google search engine. It's how you get your mobile phone signal. Now it's really popular. And then I got made redundant. And I'd got a baby in arms and a little kid who just started uni, and my husband went, what are you going to do? You've been a researcher, engineer all your life. And I went, I'll start up a little company. How hard can that be? Turns out it's actually quite hard. Turns out building a company is actually quite hard work. But 10 years on, here I am with my little data science company. And I love it. And like you, I have just the career plan that many people followed, I haven't followed. My engineering training gave me a phenomenal underpinning background. That's how I ended up being what I am. But I would say you don't have to have a PhD to have an awesome career. But if you find something you love, PhDs are brilliant.
I have a question for you because you are an entrepreneur too, right?
Yeah, apparently so.
I work with a lot of entrepreneurs, and I'm always fascinated about what drives them. What do you like about it? Why did you decide to start your own company instead of working for somebody else?
Okay, so that's really interesting. And the really honest, truthful answer is this. I'd got 2 really small kids and I wanted to stay in tech. And back in the last economic crash, people weren't really hiring part-timers. And my ability to stay was, well, could you be the project manager? Could you? And project managers are great and secretaries are great. What I wanted to do was stay in tech, and nobody was hiring part-time women in tech. So I was like, right, I'll do it myself. And my company offers genuine flexing hours. You can reach out every hours of the day you want. I don't care if it's morning, evening, during the day. Everybody gets 6 weeks holiday, so you can look after your kids if you've got them. And it was that. I wanted to stay in tech, and I couldn't do it working for anybody else.
Wow, they're both amazing stories. Thank you. And I also have a question. I guess, Sophie, when you were making that decision, that was quite a tough decision to make, but obviously it worked out really, really well. So to both of you, did you ever feel that the subjects you were studying, it was hard And did you ever have to go and get some extra help from a mentor or a tutor or colleagues?
Yeah, do you want to go first? Because
Yeah, definitely. I did have, and in fact, I did love those subjects. But when I was at the school, in fact, I was probably 10 years old, 11, 12. I had a tutor. My sister was going to a tutor too, and she was fantastic. I really kind of liked her. So it was kind of easy for me to get to her. In my first year of engineering, it was very hard. I don't know if for you it was hard, Sophie, but it was like basically they slapped my face. I was like, oh my God, what is this? I had to spend the whole summer studying to retake some of the exams, but I remember I retook like maybe 3 or 4 subjects, and I passed all of them. So you pass clean, and you see that the effort pays off. So I think it is important. It gets a moment. Usually not maybe in secondary school. It's good that you have some mentors and so on, but at university it gets a little bit tough. And I do believe that people that can help you is good. And even if you have, if you ask for help, and in some cases at the university, we had to have somebody else because my parents could not help me. I knew more than my parents. I was more knowledgeable than my parents already, right? So they had to find somebody. And I think it's important that you connect with that person that is helping you, that it is somebody that you like, that is somebody that you trust, that is somebody that you can take the phone anytime, WhatsApp them, call them to ask them questions. It's not somebody that you see once in a while and you don't feel comfortable. Because I tell you, you can find people that you will enjoy working with, and they love so much maths and physics that it is really powerful for you as to leverage. So definitely ask for help, and your parents will be delighted to find somebody to help you on that for sure.
Yes, that's great advice. Thank you. I think sometimes the realization that perhaps that it's going to take more effort, or perhaps some people seem to be performing better than you. I think it's important to realize that everybody's going to feel that at some point. And actually, if it's worth doing, then you've got to persevere. Go on, Sophie.
I was going to say, and the other thing, the myth I try and dispel is that there are natural mathematicians. There are just mathematicians who like it and work at it. So when I was at secondary school, my maths teacher told my dad I'd never get my maths GCSE and I was never going to be mathsy. And it's gone down as like the family joke. So, you know, you talk about your parents. My mum doesn't have her O-level maths. My dad did get his O-level maths. So they stopped being able to help me by the time I was 12. I went off to do this engineering degree. They both have art degrees from the Royal College of Art. I had great title pages, brilliant title pages, but from the age of 16, just no help at all. My granddad was a pit engineer. He used to build bits of kit. I used to ask him about structures. Aeronautical engineering, no hope. What I will say is that you have got to ask. I remember really clearly in my fluids lessons, I loved fluid mechanics. It was the thing that I actually loved. Physics, I just loved physics and fluid mechanics. And walking into one of my lectures in my final year, somebody made a comment about the girls and how they seemed to be doing well. And the professor turned around and went, it's because they've done the pre-reading and asked the questions. He said, it's that simple. They come prepared to learn. And he went, they put the effort in. I am not a natural mathematician. I'm not. I know awesome mathematicians that I look up to. I just love it so much. I'm prepared to keep like ticking away at it. And I do have mentors and I wouldn't be without them. But yeah, just ask. There's no shame in asking. There's no shame in getting it wrong. Most mathematicians, I don't know about you, most mathematicians are wrong like 99% of the time. You've just got to keep going till it looks a bit better. You're just going to get it wrong. It's not bad.
And that's how the improvement happens, isn't it? And if you step out of your comfort zone, that's when the growth and the development's going to happen. So it might not feel comfortable, but that's the point. So thank you both for your insights there. We do have another question about the names of the companies that you both work for. So Sophie, would you like to tell us the name of your company?
Yeah, sure. So my company's called Bayes Consulting, BAYS, which my PhD's in Bayes theorem, but he spells his name slightly differently. So if you know me, you know what maths I like. But yeah, so it's Bayes Consulting. We're little, we're tiny. We're really tiny. We're 10. So we're really tiny. But we have a lot of fun. Lots of mathematicians.
And can you share about one of your newest recruits?
Oh, my news group, yeah. So we've taken on.
So for the people at home watching, wondering about how they might, yes.
So everybody who works on our tech department, so everybody has maths degrees. So we've got statisticians and applied mathematicians, and our newest graduate, who will start in a week's time, she's just done maths with statistics at university, and our graduate from last year, she studied maths with statistics as well. And we go looking for mathematicians as opposed to engineers, because a lot of the work we're doing right now needs far more statistics than most engineering degrees study. So we hire at the moment statisticians and mathematicians, but we've also got 2 summer students, one who's studying natural sciences to help us with the fish, and one who's studying cyber to help us with the other aspects of the company.
Wow, so quite a range there. It's
underpinned by maths and science. Maths and science, that's what we look for.
Fantastic, thank you. Over to you. So you mentioned you work in a number of places.
Yeah, so my current company is called Notion Capital, NOTION.VC, if you are looking on the internet. VC from venture capital, but I worked before in other companies. So prior to Notion, I was at Microsoft. So I ran their investments in Europe in technology. Basically, it's called Microsoft Ventures, the department that runs the investments in new technologies, and we were investing in companies that were related with Microsoft. And prior to that, I worked teaching at Imperial College, and prior to that, I worked at Daimler Chrysler. So the car company. So I've been moving around from different companies, and I'm always amazed by people like Sophie, who build their own companies, and I'm fascinated, and that's why I invest in those founders. And that's the beauty of my job, that I get to work with people who are really passionate, really driven, and they are really employing people, they are managing people, and having the opportunity to give jobs, to grow your business. It's so unique, right? It requires a lot of work, but it is so unique. So I get to work with a lot of people like Sophie in my job.
Oh, fantastic, thank you. You go on, Sophie. Were you going to say?
So no, I was going to ask you a question back, actually, because you asked me one. So I'm slightly fascinated how you end up in VC, because I find that such a shift. How did you end up going from sort of engineering and Daimler into Microsoft Ventures? That's like a seismic movement between, because you work in big companies, and I've never really worked for really big companies, and that's something I find amazing, that you worked for sort of really big companies that must have lots of perks and things that we don't.
So when I came out of uni, I just applied to Daimler because I was an engineer working for a car manufacturer. It's kind of, and I got hired for one of those graduates programs. So you just get in, and but it wasn't for me. So I really think that's why I say you really need to find what is for you, right? And I went back to uni and I studied a little bit more, something else, trying to find my space. Because when you are 22, 23, you still don't have a family. You can do whatever you want. It's not that you have a legacy that you gotta pay the bills, and you gotta pay a school and buy everything for the family. So you are at that time where you can in fact risk in your career, right? And so I went back to university and trying things, and at the end I ended up doing this after trying several things. And I do think that people who understand talent and growth of talent, they know that if you've done A and you've done B, you can probably do C, because you are smart enough to do those things. So you can change a little bit your career too around your path. So don't get stuck because you don't like this and you think you are going to be doing this the rest of your life. No, you should be looking at positively and think, let's just think, what do I like? How do I get there? And that is the goal. How do I want to live in the future? And that is the way I want to
fantastic advice to end on. I'm afraid we're out of time, but thank you. I love that. If you've done A and if you've done B, then you can probably do C. And ask the questions, do the pre-reading, and keep going. So thank you both for the fantastic insights that you've given us all into your careers and your journey with maths and how maths can save the world. So this recording, it will go on to the Founders for Schools YouTube channel. We'll have it on our social media, the links to it. Thank you both. Thank you everybody at home and at school for tuning in and asking your questions, and we hope to see you again very soon at another one of our events. Thank you so much. Bye bye.
Excellent. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.